Welcome into Campo and Joe. Pleasure to be talking to you on a Tuesday after a Sunday victory for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Joe C. from XL Primetime, our head coach Dave Campo, as we've got the bobbleheads out because we got us a dub. And look, they don't come around very often,
No,
Coach.
not this year. Not so far.
7 games, late October or mid-October before you pick up the second win of the season. Right. And as we lead off our show, we're going to do a bunch of looking back. We might do a little looking ahead, but I never thought this football team, this Jaguar football team that was the first to 5 L's, would play a good enough game to where the other head coach calls his team soft. And that's what Gerard Mayo said about the New England Patriots after losing to this squad. Right. We're soft.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, obviously they couldn't run the football. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of it. You know, if you can control, if you can make a team one-dimensional, especially with a rookie quarterback, you got a chance. And that's why we had a chance in this ball game defensively, because we're not playing very well defensively. So
no, and as we break this thing up into little just pockets of either failure or success, let's at least start there with the defense and what Drake May was able to do, because this was back-to-back weeks that the Jaguars were facing rookie quarterbacks. We know what Caleb Williams did. He was throwing for 4 touchdowns, running for 50 yards. He was actually putting together a record-setting performance as far as rookies are concerned. This guy, Drake May, is just in for his second start, and he's fun to watch. You know that I loved watching him at North Carolina. But they went down the field and did what every other team has done to this football team. They go down, they score. It was the first time, I believe, in 10 offensive drives, I think the stat was shown on the broadcast, that they were able to get into the end zone and score. And Jacksonville had surrendered already 4 offensive opening drive touchdowns, now 5. Right. What level of worry were you at that point before we get to the second quarter?
Well, I was worried. I thought, here we go again, just like everybody else did. You know, you can say whatever you want, but coaches feel the same way as the fans do when things start off rough, you know. But the biggest thing to me is the problems that we have to clean up. We're making too many mistakes. Mm-hmm. That's number one.
Right.
You cannot give up big plays in a situation where a team's trying to get back into the game, especially. Mm-hmm. If it's early in the game and you blitz or you do something to try to get the control of the game, you can have a big play against you. Mm-hmm. But when you know you're 2 scores up and you give up big plays, there's something wrong.
Right.
That's one. The other one is we dropped 2 interceptions. Mm-hmm. We had one drive where we were offsides 3 times in the drive. Mm-hmm. You cannot do that. And you know, we have a tendency, even when we get home with guys, we don't get the quarterback on the ground. So when you put those things together, it's a struggle defensively. And teams are, you know, when we lost Tyson Campbell, I think, you know, and even I was a little bit a problem with this one. I thought Darby was going to be a little bit better man coverer than he is, but nobody's a man coverer if you can't rush the passer.
Right.
Which we're not doing a great job of.
No.
Well, now you lose Campbell, and all of a sudden we went from a man principal football team to a bend but break, break, don't break, zone team, and we're giving up 70% completion percentage. Well, you know, you're not going to win a lot of games giving up 70% completion percentage to the quarterback.
Yeah, both of these defenses were at the bottom of the NFL stat sheets as far as passer rating for the other quarterback, and Jacksonville has been terrible all season long, Darby being one of the greatest offenders as a defender, letting guys complete pass after pass. And so I agree with you that this is not a good enough football team right now to survive mistakes. If they make mistakes, and you know I always say, are you mistake-free or mistake-prone?
Right.
And this is a mistake-prone football team. Well, lo and behold, they eliminate the penalties that they suffered last week. They didn't let Trevor get knocked down. He wasn't even hit hardly at all. And they did clean up things offensively. So what flipped in your mind from a 10-0 deficit to erupting, and let's call it erupting, for 22 points in the second quarter, where they got off big plays and all of a sudden kind of got a little mojo going?
Well, first of all, they ran the football effectively. And you and I know now, we've said it enough. You have to run the ball. As a matter of fact, I think the league, when you look at the top teams in the league, it's going back to a little bit more of a run mentality.
All right, let's just stay right there just for 1 second because you're a defensive play caller.
Right.
And we have heard a couple of guys, Mel Kiper going off on the cover too, and others talking about it.
Right.
And Rex Ryan was one of the guys I think I asked you about. Getting the quarterback under center and the run game, that is what you're referring to, correct?
Absolutely. Plus, if you watch the offensive lineman right now, hand on the ground, that's a whole different mentality to me.
Yeah.
And that's what you get when you get the quarterback under center and you got a back that can run the football.
Yeah.
So that was a part of it, was we were running the ball effectively. And if you look, the vast majority of throws right now, until you get to third down, are play action passes. They're at least making a play fake, whether it's just a nominal one, but it does affect the linebackers. Now, third down wise, we're still not very good. That's when you don't have the play action pass. You have to execute.
Right.
And now the pressure and those kind of things become a factor. So I think they were able to get back into it, Joe, because they were able to run the football. And that allows you to take some shots, which he did, and hit Brian Thomas on that takeoff. And that's the best throw I've seen him make all year. He laid it up there where the guy could run underneath it.
And that is under center, take a snap, play action, turn your back to the defense and make a read. And by the way, Trevor wasn't necessarily making the best reads into the middle of the field. That's where he had been maybe more of a liability throwing the football than a positive. Bottom line is he did all of that and, like you said, delivered a dime.
Yeah, and I think the pressure has something to do with that. I think the offensive line has actually played better the last couple of weeks, and some of that is from continuity, having the same guys in there all the time. And, again, here's the other thing. They ran 2 reverses. Okay, well, they didn't make any yardage with them.
Right.
But that changes. That's what you call innovative play calling, because one of those is going to hit one of these times.
Right.
If you don't do it, you don't get the ball. Get the ball in number 7's hands as much as possible.
Yeah,
whether it's catching the ball, whether it's running reverses with them, whatever you have to do. When you look at the elite signal callers in the league, run, throw, short, run, reverse, flea flicker, something that is different that makes it difficult on the defense. And that's what puts the fear in the heart of the defensive caller.
And I do feel like I'm going to give Press Taylor or Doug a little bit of credit because Press Taylor's calling the plays, but we don't know how much Doug and him work in concert during the week. And I would believe they work a heck of a lot together on the game plan and the call sheet. But the one thing that has been obvious, and you and I have both stressed this, is you got to get the run game going. And then we add to that, take the profit throws, which you were really, really steadfast on. So now you have a short passing game that's more effective. You got Brian Thomas even in short passing games. You have him in a wide receiver screen game.
Right.
You have Tank Bigsby who can run the football. Now you have your second string running back proven that he needs to be the first string running back, who is more of a tough yards runner on first and second down. Short passing, run game can lead to big play.
Absolutely. And again, I thought that they effectively got number 7 into the game plan by those. He had 2 quick screens in a row.
I love him.
Yeah, as long as everything else, it's all based on numbers.
Sure.
If you've got maximum number you get in the box defensively, that's when the quick screens work. Well, the reason you get maximum in the box defensively is because you're running the football effectively and you need more people up there to stop the run. Now, all of a sudden, it's one-on-one out there. You throw it out to a guy that has good run after catch like 7 does, or 13 even. They can make something happen out of those things.
All right, so we saw a 10-point deficit turn into a dozen-point lead going into the half. They were able to score 22 in the second quarter, stuff we hadn't seen. Heck, Coach, they had scored 21 or less 5 of 6 games. That's 60 minutes of ball where they were 21 points or less. Now, a couple of games, the kind of the opposite result. Instead of losing 35-16, they win 32-6. They double them up. And I know that there were some positive changes, but let's also not dismiss the quality of the opponent that they
Absolutely.
were playing.
I mean,
we have to admit that.
This is by far was the worst D line that we played against to this point. So, again, I'm excited about the win, but there's things that have to be cleaned up. Do you remember the first drive we went 3 and out?
Yeah.
You know what happened? They ran a blitz, and we didn't blitz adjust by the receiver, and the guy's clean on Trevor.
Yeah.
What's he going to do?
Right.
You can't make that mistake. That's a simple mistake. Your guy comes, turn around, let him throw you the ball. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
So there's enough mistakes on both sides of the ball still that are going to hold us back unless we get a clean ball game, and we need a clean ball game from this team in order to win when we're going forward here.
So I don't want to dismiss a win, but I also don't want to make it any bigger than it is. Like you're saying,
correct.
Is that you needed to draw some positives. You need to feel good about yourself,
right? And
so now you come back from London, you have a win. How do you coach off of that? Because this stretch of ball games that they're going to be seeing, the NFC North, they've already played the Bears. That's an L. They got the Vikings, Lions, and then the Packers, of course, coming up on Sunday. Not to mention the Jets, the Texans, the Titans. This is all in front of them.
Right.
How do you build off this? Say, guys, if you just do X, X, and X.
That's what you're talking about right there. If I'm Doug Peterson, I went into this season thinking we can play against anybody in the league. We are talented enough. We get Tyson Campbell back. We start to get a little healthier with the guys. Aluakun coming off of
injured reserve.
And Dewey Wingard, some guys that we were counting on to be part of this whole thing. So I don't care who we're playing. I'm going into this ball game. If we play a clean game, it'll be a good game probably because they're a good football team. Green Bay's a good football team.
Right.
But there's no reason that we can't win the football game if we play a clean game. It comes down to that. And I think when you win, you can coach harder. You can when you lose, you can lose guys.
Yeah. This is what you did for a win. Let's do more of that.
We need to do more of this, and we can't do this, or else it's going to be we're going to be 2-6.
Well,
it's very simple. Here it is. Look, if we made these plays in this game, what the score would have been.
Right.
So that's the only way you can do it. You can't manufacture all of a sudden now we're going to be, scoring 50 points and giving up 20.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's going to come down to every game we play now. We're going to be underdogs, and we have to do things right in order to win it.
All right. So that was the 5th straight loss for the New England Patriots.
Right.
They're feeling a little heat naturally. I've labeled the Jags the best of the bad because when you start looking around, there's some bad football teams out there too. They obviously should have beaten in Miami and the Cleveland Browns. Both of them had their starters. Now we know that Tua is still not yet to return. We know Deshaun is gone.
Out.
But it just drives you nuts that you could have had those games.
Absolutely.
And then you were in a ball game with Houston. There's no getting away from that.
Yep.
Bears and Bills, they beat you, okay? You just have to admit that.
Right.
But what could have been might drive you a little crazy. All right, so now.
But really, Joe, to be honest with you, that's the reason why you have to be optimistic about what we can do against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
You look back, I mean, that's part of it. If we'd have played a clean game against Miami, we win.
That's a dub.
If we played a clean game against Cleveland, we win.
Absolutely.
Okay, so why are we going to look at that and say we're a lousy football team?
True.
We're not a lousy football team. We're just not very smart and not doing things right.
I got so fired up after the Bears loss. I said, this season may be a wrap.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to try and convince myself that a 1-4 team could be a 4-1 team. I'm just not doing it, right?
Exactly.
And so now I'm pulled back in because I saw some good. Now, I'm also logical.
Yep.
The Green Bay Packers, both sides of the ball, are really good. They're coached well by Matt LaFleur. As soon as he got there, he had an instant impact and success. Made it to, I believe, 4 straight, maybe at least 3 straight NFC Championship games as a first-time coach.
Right.
And he, of course, he had Aaron Rodgers there, but he did it with Jordan Love this last go-around.
Right.
So just a quick peek as far as what you think can happen in this football game.
Well, first of all, I think we have to get a little bit more aggressive on defense. He's not very good. He's like under 50% blitz love, okay? But they win because of their running game. Make them one-dimensional. Make them get into those third and long situations, and don't be afraid to put pressure on them. Not zone blitz. Line up and cover guys and come get them.
Right.
And see what happens. Because if you just sit back like we've been sitting back, he's only a 60% completion percentage right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's because teams are getting after him. Okay. We've got to create a pass rush. That's a key. But we have to stop the run. That's where they make they're 4-5 and 4-7 with their two running backs average.
Yeah.
So they're running the football effectively.
And by the way, it didn't really matter who was back there because when Aaron Jones was back there and Dillon, that combo worked.
Yep.
They go in, they get Josh Jacobs.
And Wilson. I mean, they're both good backs.
I was stunned to hear that was the first receiving touchdown that Josh Jacobs had as a player, not as a Packer, but as a player.
Right.
It blew my mind. And so the defensive liabilities right now, is though basically are those third and long situations where they
no question
just seem to buckle at the worst imaginable time.
Right.
And so when you do have the complement of really good receivers, because Jaden Reed, Dontavius Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, you can go down the line, Bo Tucker Craft in there. We're talking about some serious weapons when it comes for in the receiving game, and then you throw in the two-headed running back.
Well, there's really, honestly, I just watched their game today against Houston, and their offensive line is better than ours, and that's a big plus for them.
Sure,
they're like us everywhere else. I mean, that's a spread out. They don't have a guy that you just say, okay, we have to stop this guy.
Right.
It's a spread out operation. We've got a couple running backs right now that are pretty good.
Yeah.
We got receivers across the board that are capable. I'm talking about Ingram, Kraft.
Yeah.
Okay. Kirk, number 7. And 7's probably better than any of those guys. Maybe not right now, but is going to be.
I got you.
Okay,
I wouldn't argue with that.
But they're comparable.
Yeah.
And so it's not like we don't have weapons.
Okay,
so we've got to protect the quarterback, run the football, and let Trevor do his thing.
Okay, so I'm in agreement, and I came into the season so jacked up about the offensive weaponry that this team had, and I wasn't afraid to toss it out there and compare it to a lot of the other great groups. And I would easily agree with you. You might even say Brian Thomas is better than any of the Reeds, Wicks, Dobbs, any of those guys, based on what he's done. But we all know it's not this offense versus that offense. It's this offense versus that D, and it's this.
That's correct.
And it's this D against that O.
And that's a concern.
Yeah.
I mean, when we get one of the keys to this football game is going to be to make the quarterback not make any mistakes defensively. We've got some guys that are not clean. Number 33 is struggling in pass defense. I mean, he's just not.
How do you fix that? Just spend a second on this real quick. Devin Lloyd, and it's not. I get fired up. It's not necessarily his fault that Trent Baalke decided to trade back into the first round and make him a number 1 or a first round draft pick the same year they made Trayvon a number 1 overall. But what the H is he doing? They moved him from outside to inside, and then Foye got injured, and he just looks like he's being put in situations where he's being made to look silly.
Well, he's responsible for a lot of things. They're playing this Tampa 2 or 2 middle, or whatever you want to call it, where he has to go down the middle. He's not doing that very well.
Leon preaches that all the time.
He's not doing very well there. The tight end touchdown where it looked like he was loafing.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be down the middle on that one. He didn't. He played the play fake instead of doing what he's supposed to do.
So this is back-to-back weeks.
That's last week.
Yeah, Komet torched him.
This week, the 2 middle.
Yeah.
Again, where they hit the post from the 22-yard line to number 2 down the middle.
Yeah.
He wasn't down the middle. He was with number 3. He didn't get where he's supposed to get. They're now playing a little bit of quarters,
Mm-hmm.
but they're playing so soft with the safeties that it's ridiculous. But there was a perfect example when you watch the 22.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matchup between 2 and 3 with the linebackers, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the nickel, considered a linebacker, the
Mm-hmm.
nickel is responsible for 2 to the flat. The Mike is responsible, that's 33,
Right.
for the inside, number 3. He runs right by it, and the
Mm-hmm.
guy runs by him, and it's wide open. And then on the end zone copy, he turns around to the secondary and gives it one of these. My bad. So he's not clean.
Yeah.
And part of it is, maybe they're asking him to do too much. Maybe he's not the sharpest tool in the toolbox.
Right.
But they have to get that cleaned up, because if you're going to play as much zone as they're playing, those guys have got to know exactly where they're dropping, what their responsibility is in every coverage.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like Ryan Nielsen he's already created enough question and doubt in the fan base.
Right.
All Duval is like, wait a minute. And I'm one of the first guys to line up and take responsibility for this. I thought Ryan Nielsen was going to be a great hire. I was wrong. And I'm finding more and more out about who hired him. And this may not be another Doug Peterson decision, which just drives me nuts that someone who is a head coach doesn't get to decide who his coordinator is. That pisses me off if that's how if that's how it went.
Yeah.
And that Trent Baalke is such a power freak that he had to be the one to make the decision on that. And then the whole bigger, faster, stronger, getting them in the locker room, they look slower right now.
Well, I don't know if that's the case.
I know.
I mean, rumors are like, you know what?
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's got one.
I got elbows.
But all I can say is that there's been enough mistakes made that shouldn't be made. Look, when I look at my wife after watching a game and I say, Kay, you know what? I think I could go over there and coach. I'm over the hill.
But you're not wrong.
But guess what? I mean, there's a lot of things that just, you look at it and you say, and it's easy to be, we said this before, it's easy to be second guessing.
Sure.
But I'm looking at things that should be cleaned up. And we're not doing as good a job there as we need to do. I can tell you that right now.
And I know that there have been moments where even on that side of the ball, there have been winnable ball games, like we just discussed. They've done enough to win. They had a 3-point loss and a 5-point loss, and those were scores in the teens. That means defensively they did enough to win those football games.
Right.
But you lost 20-17, you lost 18-13. But at the same time, there have been so many misses. The point differential that this team had going into this last game, New England was the worst, Jacksonville was the second worst.
Yes.
And so they've given up far too many big plays. And so that part of it still needs to be buttoned up.
Yep, absolutely. And again, I'm hoping that Campbell, I really do think Campbell. First of all, if you watch how he rotated guys, he rotated number 30 a lot.
Which is,
I think in the long run, it's going to be 30 and Campbell because I think both of those guys are pretty good man cover. I think 30, Monteric has proven to me that he can handle one-on-one coverage.
I was going to ask you this because you had a free agent in Ronald Darby that came in with a lot of experience, but he's also long in tooth. He's a 10-year guy. We all know he's getting dusted off and he's getting work. There's no getting away from that. He's the closest defender to too many big plays.
Right.
And so now you spent your money. Does Doug and Nielsen have enough, and I'm just going to call it stones, to say, you know what? Monteric is I need my 2 best cornerbacks out there. Tyson is absolutely my best, and now Monteric is your second best.
I hope they do.
And Jarian would be nickel?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, they made some changes. I mean, they put
he played quite a bit.
They took Johnson and made him a dime defender, which is when they went 6 DBs.
Right.
And that's all he did. They had Savage at safety.
Yeah.
And I'm not
with Cisco.
With Cisco. And again, I question some stuff that they're doing a little bit, but that's a better lineup with Jarian at nickel.
Yeah.
Than what they had been doing.
So at the very least.
So they're making, in other words, I guess my point is they're making some changes based on whether or not the guy's good enough or not good enough playing on that particular situation.
So give him credit for trying and tinkering.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
I'm okay with that.
I think they want to win.
Yeah.
Now, if they'd have gone 1-6, that might have been a different story. They might have had to make some real changes, but they didn't.
And this much we know to be true: if you don't get to the quarterback, your secondary will always suffer.
Yeah, and that's a problem. And we're not blitzing at all. As a matter of fact, when we are blitzing, we're not doing it very well. So it's kind of a catch-22. But I do think we need to put pressure on this guy if we're going to win, or else it's going to be another 70. They're averaging 27 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they only got, what'd they get? 20. They got 24 against a pretty darn good Houston defense.
Yeah,
which is a better defense than ours.
Yeah, and
I just watched the game. Like I said, they're a better defensive unit. They get more pressure on the quarterback.
That's 100%
than we do, and that's 90% of it there.
It really is. All right, so we'll see what it looks like. Always enjoy the conversation. We appreciate all y'all checking out Campo and Joe wherever you find us on podcast or watch us or listen. We totally appreciate it. Joe C. from XL Primetime. We will talk to you then. And our man, head coach Dave Campo.